And just like that, look at that. Let's bring it up. Matt, you want to move into the pictures so people can see you?
Well, oh, sorry, Craig.
There we go. Look at that. Now we're back. We're a little bit bright. And yeah, we'll fiddle around. We'll make the show happen. But overall, yeah, we continue to have OBS issues. They fooled me once. Shame on me. They fooled me about a dozen times. And now we're getting ready for the show. But Matt, we have a card where all of a sudden this is going to be the graphic that we're stuck with. And we already talked about Leonardo. She's got a big fight coming up against Gatto. I don't think that Gatto's got a chance in this one. You've got her. I've got Leonardo. We're split on the pick, right?
But here's the thing, Craig. You've only brought up reasons why Gatto can't win, and
Leonardo's
for why Leonardo can.
Leonardo's primary striker. I think she's going to box her up on the feet, and then once she gets on top, she's going to stick to her like glue. I think that's going to be the problem.
I really think she's going to have trouble in the grappling. Again, it's not like I'm going to waste any money on this fight or put it on a parlay, but I do feel like the grappling of Gatto at least is the higher ceiling between these two.
All right, Matt. We'll move into our next fight on this card. So again, Leonardo taking on Gatto. You got Miles Johns taking on Anderson Dos Santos. And Matt, with Anderson Dos Santos, this is a guy that we talked about at the start of the week. He didn't follow Proto, buddy. He had a bit of an issue with COVID a few weeks ago. He's taking on a Miles Johns. It's definitely a game opponent out of Fortis MMA. He's one of those guys that can implement his wrestling and his pressure. I think the best opportunity for a finish in this fight is probably for Anderson Dos Santos. I think the best opportunity for a win, a more than likely a decision win, Miles Johns.
Anderson Dos Santos is the type of guy who gets Joe Rogan really excited for a fight night because he looks at that Tapology record, sees all the finishes, and he's like, oh, wow, this guy must be insane. He is not what his record suggests. I really do feel like Miles Johns is a really high ceiling in this division. I'm not saying Miles Johns is a top 10 guy in the future, but I can see him getting into that like 15-10 category. And I really do feel like a win over Anderson Dos Santos is the first step in that direction.
If you look at this one at Fight Night Pixel on Instagram, 84% of the fans going with Miles Johns to get the win, 16% with Dos Santos. Miles Johns more than a 2-1 favorite. Do you see that as making sense?
I like the odds where they are. Again, I've never been the biggest Anderson Dos Santos guy. He can get finishes if his opponents make mistakes, but I never really see him being the guy who goes out there. I don't think he can knock out Miles Johns. I definitely don't think he can out wrestle him. So personally, I really like Miles Johns in this one.
Everybody that's hot and bothered in the comment section about the graphics. I made this graphic in the 2 minutes that we were away, so it's just going to be stuck. You're going to have to listen up. All right, Matt, we move into our next fight on the card. Manel Kape missed weight, weighed in at 129. Did he try? I don't know. He's taking on Ode Osborne that looked really, really good at weigh-ins, moving down for the first time at 125 pounds. This is a guy that fought all the way through 135, 145 in his last fight. He was able to get the big win over the man himself, Jerome Rivera, up at 145 pounds. So now we move into this fight. We both have Manel Kape at the start of the week. I've seen a lot of people high on Kape, myself included, but without the wrestling shoes and 135 pounds, he's looked tentative and hesitant. I don't like the weight miss in this one either.
Think about how much Drew Holiday's life has changed in the last 3 weeks. Just bear with me here. This could take a second. He went from being like, is he that good, to winning an NBA title and now being an Olympic gold medalist. Things have gone really well for him lately. Manel Kape had that opportunity. It was like, okay, you were the rising champ. You came over. This is a really big deal. And he's done nothing but disappoint, to be completely honest. And listen, this is one of those fights where it's like, okay, you're not as good as the Pantosias of the world, and you can't be Mateusz Nicolau. But, like, this is the type of fight that you should be able to win. And this is the type of fight that you should be able to win. And the fact that he missed weight so badly is just a really telling sign. I don't know if he just didn't try for this camp. I don't know if he showed up like, hey, I'm going to beat Ode Osborne no matter what shape I show up into. It's just really, really concerning to see from a guy who we both had such high expectations for when he came over to the UFC.
When I look at this one, I mean, Manel Kape, he's a big favorite. He came in somewhere in the realm of a minus 200. He went all the way to minus 220. He's minus 200 right now. If you have a look at Fight Night Picks, the votes were close all the way through on this one. 48% have Kape, 52% going with Ode Osborne to get the win. For me, we talked about it at the start of the week. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that can kind of keep up with the speed and the pace of Ode Osborne. I thought that Manel Kape would be one of those guys. Again, lead hook from either stance, the footwork that he brings into it. But if he's tentative, I don't think he's going to get a great opportunity against a guy like Ode Osborne, who's always first guy to the punch. I'm switching my pick on this one. I'm going with the underdog in Ode Osborne. I don't like the weight miss. He has to get the win. I can't stress that enough. If Kape loses this fight, you can carry it from here.
He's basically Will Brooks, but worse. Like, I'm a person who had quite a bit of stock in Andrea Bargnani, and I might have held on to it a little bit too long to the point where it wasn't worth anything by the end of his run. With Manel Kape, again, there was a real opportunity for him to go on. Like, I thought he was going to fight for a title. I can out myself right now. I thought that was the kind of ceiling this guy had, and now we're talking about him like he could be on his way out of the UFC. I know the Pantoja fight, he made a fairly good account of himself. Pantoja is one of the best fighters in the division. It's just, I'm going to stick with Manel Kape. I am. I was going back and forth, and I do kind of want to pick Ode Osborne, but again, it is the back up against the wall factor. If Kape loses this, he's gone from the UFC. I don't even know if Bellator takes a chance on him. Like, it's not just the fact that you're losing fights. It's the fact that you're not a professional about it and that you're missing weight by so bad. Again, I'm going to pick Kape, but I'm not that confident in this pick after what I saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to see it, especially from a guy that came in with championship aspirations and opportunities. Like, you can't forget, this is a guy that weighed in, and properly, I might add, for Figueiredo Moreno won. So, again, a lot of people over in the comments section, kind of all over the place, but to me, that's what I'm going with. Anton J. Anton J, we're here for the start of the show. We're here for the start. But listen, your next fight, Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Jessica Penne. 55% of the fans at Fight Night Picks, they've got Kowalkiewicz to win. 45% going with Jessica Penne in this one. Because if you really think about it and talk about it, for Kowalkiewicz, she hasn't won in years. She's lost 4 fights in a row. She's taken tons of damage. She's got a plate in her face. And then for Jessica Penne, she hadn't fought in 1 in years, and then she beat Lupi Godinez, but she didn't really. She's got a teammate on this card, Angela Hill. I don't have Hill in her fight, but I have Penne to win against Kowalkiewicz because for Kowalkiewicz, she always had strong takedown defense until it started to get worse. Again, I know Yan Xiaonan, very, very good in terms of a great fighter, but I have a really hard time going with Kowalkiewicz. Anton J, I'm giving you a hard time just because I had to come up with a slide in 2 minutes between switching from OBS to Crash and where we are now. And I just want to give you the best I can. Matt, give us the best you can. What are you saying here?
Okay, you say something nice about Karolina, and I'll try to say something nice about Jessica Penne.
Karolina Kowalkiewicz is a very good counter striker, and when she wants to work with volume, she can have a little bit of fun.
I picked Karolina Kowalkiewicz in this fight. I don't even know if I can agree with all those things. Jessica Penne has, like, good clinch control, and her trips are good. But even that, like, those are the, like, Hall of Fame badges that these fighters possess, and even their skills don't really wow me. Again, I think Karolina can at least accumulate some volume in the clinch. And again, the clinch is going to be Jessica Penne's path to get that takedown. So it really comes down to, can Karolina just stay close enough to where her knees and her elbows can connect on Penne, but not get off balance enough to where she can get tripped. And it really is going to be a fine balancing act for her, but I am ever so slightly going to pick Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Again, don't waste your money putting this fight on your bracket because no one really knows what's going to happen. We've had Jessica Penne, who's so far past the hill she can't even see it anymore, or Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who, like you said, it's not like she's been on the best run of her career. And Karolina does seem 1 foot out a lot. It has been a lot of, I'm going to start a family. She has gotten married since her last fight, which is very exciting for her. But again, it's a lot of things outside of MMA that does concern me. I'm going to stick with the pick, Karolina. I hate switching picks, and I always feel like it's going to be one of those things. I'll switch my pick, and then I'll regret it immediately. So we'll stick with Karolina. But again, the fact that I can barely come up with reasons for why either one of these fighters is going to win tells you all you need to know about this fight.
I mean, Chase Collins saying Kowalkiewicz is crying after last loss. She needs to retire. Well, she kind of did, and now she's back. And
Joel Embiid cried when Kawhi Leonard hit that shot. He's still good.
He still hasn't won anything, though. That's the point. But when we're looking at this one, I still have Penne. I think she has the size advantage and the grappling advantage, and that's what I like in a fight like this, which is crazy because she's a former
Victoria Leonardo
atomweight champ from years ago. And both of these fighters, I know that was a question over there, the fact that wasn't she a title challenger? Well, at one point they both were, and neither one of them successful. One got beat up more than the other, and that was Jessica Penne. Matt, let's move into our next fight. Over at Fight Night Picks, the fans have 88% with Alonzo Menifield, 12% with old Ed Herman. I want to hear your argument. How can Ed Herman win this fight?
If Ed Herman can do the classic Ed Herman, I'm going to glue my forehead to your chest, and I'm just not going to give you the space to land clean shots. And honestly, it kind of works better than you'd think. It is kind of surprising to see Ed Herman be this effective. And listen, controversy aside from the slow mic win, but he still looked pretty good as of late. And it really is going to be the fact of making this a mixed martial arts fight. Ed Herman cannot just stand and strike with a guy like Alonzo Menifield 5 minutes at a time. I don't think he can wrestle with him. I don't think he can just do any of the martial arts skill for skill with Alonzo Menifield. It really is going to have to come down to like fight IQ, cardio, and all those weird intangibles. Again, nobody wants to see a guy like Ed Herman succeed more than me. It's just at 205, he is a little bit undersized. I've never felt like physically he matches up well with a lot of these guys at 205 pounds. And against a guy like Alonzo Menifield, who is one of the bigger guys for this division, I understand people are hesitant about Menifield. They saw him get caught by OSP. And again, it's not a great look, but I don't think Ed Herman has anywhere near the hand speed or power that a guy like OSP has. So although Menifield might have a lot of red flags attached to him, I still like him against, a 42-year-old Ed Herman?
Yeah, it's really tricky for me, and it's going to be tricky moving forward because all of our graphics are made up for OBS, and we have a fight companion. Now we're going to have to figure out how to make it work on StreamYard, like what we're doing right now. But the only trouble behind the scenes with StreamYard, you can't shrink your picture. You can with OBS and everything else. StreamYard, you're stuck with giant. That's why we had a hard time spacing ourselves.
I'm doing wall sits.
Matt, when we look at this one, Ed Herman coming in around a plus 204. You look at it for Alonzo Menifield, big favorite. He opened a minus 140. He's minus 249 right now. Ed Herman's last loss was to a guy that's actually over my shoulder in Jean Volante in a fight that he actually won. But yeah, I have a really hard time going with old Ed Herman in this one. I've got Alonzo Menifield. When we're talking about a finish, I mean, listen, if Alonzo Menifield goes in there hot and heavy, first round, second round, he's not going to be able to get it done in the third against a guy like that.
No, but honestly, I do think Menifield's going to win this one by stoppage. It sucks to say. It's just Ed Herman, there's kind of a niche for him. Like, unless he's fighting guys who are kind of wrestlers themselves, who don't have great striking, who are known to have sus cardio. Like, there's a very specific type of opponent out there for a guy like Ed Herman. I just don't think Alonzo Menifield's the type of opponent. All
right, Matt, we move into our next fight. We're having a look at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram. This one, as I say, is a weird bucket of muscle. 73% of fans have Draco Rodriguez to win against the 27% that have Vince Morales. I've seen Draco Rodriguez lose 2 times. One time, he got totally out-wrestled by Tony Gravely. It's going to happen. 2 times, he goes in there and he takes on one tough Ayman Zahabi. And I love the comment, it got hidden by Travis Duarte. But listen, you can't be cursing and swearing, or we can't be making money with Fight Night Picks. But I've seen him get out-wrestled. I've seen him get outstruck. For Vince Morales, I've seen him get out-leg kicked by a guy that was involved in a nasty custody battle, and Chris Gutierrez.
Okay, John Anna.
I've seen him get wrestled by certain guys too, but for Vince Morales, he has that high school wrestling in his back pocket from the Pacific Northwest, which you appreciate. Cousin of Ricky Simone, who's going to be in his corner this weekend. Training now fully out of a great camp in Syndicate MMA. You got the Sean Stricklands, you got the Canadians in there, so on and so forth. But when I look at this fight, I do actually have a hard time with it. I had Draco Rodriguez at the start of the week because I like how well-rounded he is, and I think in a fight like this, a combination of leg kicks, a little bit of boxing in there, that could win it for Rodriguez. But this is a live and game guy for Vince Morales where a lot of fans don't have him to win.
Yeah, because here's the thing with Vince Morales. You're 9-5 for a reason. I just don't think he's been able to go out there. Vince Morales doesn't have any of those show-stopping talents. I don't think he goes out there and can wow you with his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu, or his striking. Again, he does need to mix it up. And for Draco Rodriguez, it's weird because, I hate his nickname. Might be my least favorite nickname in the UFC. That has nothing to do with the predictions, but still. He does have that 50-50 style against those top fighters where he will get into a brawl. He will leave himself open when he goes for takedowns. There are holes in his game that can be capitalized on. It's just when the people who do capitalize on them, it's the guys like Tony Gravely, who is a phenomenal wrestler. They're guys like Ayman Zahabi, who really can switch it up. And Ayman does have underrated hand speed, and I thought it was put on display quite well in the Draco Rodriguez fight. So I do still have Rodriguez in this one, although I do understand where some people are coming from Vince Morales. It's just no one's been able to give me a really solid explanation as to how Morales can win this 50-minute fight.
Todd hitting us up in the super chat saying, top the like for the boys. Really appreciate it. Don't you dare get rid of the QMK parlay. It's just this week. It's just this week. Thank you for the super chat, Todd. Supporting the boys. Matt, sit down in your chair.
I'd love to, Craig.
We'll keep moving me over. We'll see if we can find a spot where Matt can sit down. Because again, this was a show that unfortunately had to be on the fly.
We're good.
You're good there? I'll be good here. How about that? Now, here we go. All right. So when you're looking at this fight, I've got Draco Rodriguez. I'm not changing the pick for this one. So we'll move into our next one. This is a featured prelim getting ready for the Fight Companion. I'm at the graphics for the Fight Companion. They're going to look great. You know what? It actually works that when we go this way, this will actually look pretty good when we do a Fight Companion. So when we focus on Bobby Green and Fiziev, I see a lot of people saying Fiziev is like a top 5 level guy, and I think he's a great fighter, but this is one of those fights where, boom, right there, you beat Bobby Green, now you're going to start fighting that ranked competition. I thought that Fiziev should have got a ranked guy when he beat Moicano. I think that's like a name that people can rally around. He's a guy that's main evented a fight night before, albeit he got finished pretty bad. That's true. But when I look at this one, I really do think that Fiziev's going to get the win unless Bobby Green puts the wrestling shoes on. And even then, Fiziev's a sneaky guy. He's a hard guy to catch. I love the fight, but for me, yeah, I've got the man himself, Fiziev here.
People aren't going to like this comp, but I really look at Fiziev kind of like Gustafsson on his first run to the title. He goes, okay, I don't have good grappling. My striking's ridiculously good. So I'm going to invest all of my grappling points into takedown defense. And it works really well. And Fiziev is one of those interesting characters because if Bobby Green chains his wrestling together, he might be able to get Fiziev down to the ground. Fiziev has a really good, I meet you with my hips. He has really strong hips, but he's also got a really good first move up off of his back. The issue is that when he does get into those extended grappling positions or sequences, that's when he can get taken advantage of on the mat. And Bobby Green's one of those weird characters because he won't wrestle at all one fight. Then he'll come out and look like a phenomenal wrestler his next fight. And it is really interesting because I think Bobby Green can strike with Fiziev, at least for a little while. But the thing is, once Fiziev starts going to the body and going to the leg, I just don't really know how Bobby Green's going to retaliate against those strikes. Bobby Green throws okay body shots, but I don't think he puts enough investment into those type of techniques to where it's really going to pay this massive effect by the third round, by the time the third round rolls around. With Fiziev, if he just dedicates himself to that body and to the legs, eventually will open up a headshot. And I do like Fiziev by stoppage in this one.
To me, I look at this one with Fiziev and Bobby Green almost like the main event graphic that's in front of you with Cyril Gane and Derek Lewis, because Cyril Gane's one of those guys that switches stances and throws at every single level and works the body a lot that pays dividends in some of the later rounds. For those reasons, I like Fiziev in this fight. And if we have a look again at Fight Night Picks, 80% have Fiziev to the 20% that have Bobby Green. If you have a look at the odds, Fiziev's a really big favorite in this one. He's coming in at about a 3-1. You can get Bobby Green if you like him at a plus 235. Do you like, does Bobby Green have one of those decision opportunities here?
Speed kills on the street and also in the cage. And Fiziev has way more speed in this fight. He really is the more technical fighter out of these two. And again, if he's missing a lot, then maybe he could tire himself out going for the knockout. Again, I have to bring up the Gavin Tucker fight against Rick Glenn because it was one of those... I'm going to voice correct that bad in a minute, but against Rick Glenn, it was weird. Gavin Tucker, it's in front of his home crowd, Canada. He's going for the knockout. He's kind of caught up in it. And then he tires himself out. I don't think that's going to happen. But again, something I thought about, so I thought I'd throw it out to you guys. But yeah, I like Fiziev in this one, probably inside the distance.
All right, Matt. Our next fight, we have Casey Kenny taking on Sung Yadong. We were split on the pick earlier in the week. 55% of the fans at Fight Night Picks, that's 292 total votes, have Casey Kenny to get the win. 45% have Sung Yadong. I think this is a great fight. I think when I listened to the first interview, like I said in the first iteration of the show, I actually ended up deleting because I was just kind of upset with the way that things turned out. But we're going to make StreamYard the permanent home because it never lets us down. It's like a dad that sticks around. It's just there. And it's working well. So StreamYard, thanks. But yeah, when I look at that fight, Matt, for Casey Kenny, it was kind of peppering in I might take him down. And then at the end of the week, it's like, yeah, I'm probably going to take him down. But the question with Casey Kenny always is those third rounds. Against Nathaniel Wood, it got a little bit closer. Against Dominic Cruz, it's getting a little bit closer, even though back and forth fight. It's weird that the fight against Nathaniel Wood was a unanimous decision win for Casey Kenny. I thought it was really close. I thought Wood won the fight. And then against Cruz, I thought Cruz won the fight, and then it's a split. But when I look at this one, I think Sung Yadong's a great opponent. This is excellent matchmaking. It's a close fight. Usually when we're split on fights, it's going to be a really good one. So, yeah, are you still split here?
Well, and that's what I was going to bring up, too. Like, nothing you've said about Casey Kenny I can disagree with. I do think he has the wrestling edge. Just the issue I have with interviews is, yeah, you could say it in an interview. I've never seen Casey Kenny go in there and just shoot double legs in a fight, though. Like, at a certain point, you have to show me it in the cage. And I think he will use his wrestling, but he still is going to have to strike with Sung Yadong. And I know a lot of people aren't as high on Sung Yadong after a few of his last performances. He's had some close fights. But if you strike with him at distance, more often than not, you're going to get hurt. And I do think Sung Yadong is going to be able to land big shots in this fight. The weird thing about Casey Kenny, and I'm going to lope him in with Pedro Munoz in this, he doesn't have the power that Pedro Munoz does. I'm not going to say anything crazy like that. He's not that fast of a striker. That's the thing about Casey Kenny. Everything he does on the feet is slightly labored, and there is a tell to it. When he throws his kicks, he loads up and then he throws them. It's not just throw. There's always a pause, load up, and throw. And I really do feel like against a striker in Song Yadong, it's going to get you caught at a certain point. Could Casey Kenny go out there and out-wrestle 30-25 Song Yadong? Yes, there's a possibility of that. I just think that Song Yadong's going to be able to catch him at range. And when he is piecing him up at range, it's just going to force that takedown attempt to start coming from further and further and further away. And I do feel like he's going to be able to time a big shot off that.
Bub Collins, love the channel. And y'all know, fellas, just curious, who's each of your favorite fighters at the moment? Let's get into it. MMA media aside, favorite fighters to watch.
I like watching Vicente Luque a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound like I like Cyril Gane, but I've been on this train since like the show started.
Yeah.
Like in 2018. Let us know in the comments section who you really, really like. Because, I mean, there's so many different people to watch out there right now.
Hot take, I love watching Yair Rodriguez fight. I know people might not like him for other reasons, but like in the cage, Yair Rodriguez is probably one of my top 5.
At 125, I still think now Miranda Maverick's going to have a chip on her shoulder. Not going to want to miss those fights. So a lot of great fights going on out there. But again, in the fight that we were talking about, you've got Yaozong. I've got Casey Kenny. Let's move on to the next one. The likes, they've been questions over there. Where are the likes? Well, listen, if you don't want to like it, we made a mistake. But yeah, toss a like. It takes a second. And if we can get over 100, I'll be very happy. And maybe I'll wear a different soccer jersey for the next question mark kicks. Tisha Torres taking on Angela Hill. Matt, when we look at the original fight, Tisha Torres won it. Since then, Torres, she lost, 4 in a row. She's picked up a couple of big wins lately. Brianna Van Buren and then Sam Hughes. And for Angela Hill, she's won some, she's lost some. She looked like she was going to go for a run at the title and then lost 2 close split decisions. She won her last fight. This is a tricky one. I still think the winner of the first fight is going to win the second fight.
I agree with you. Tisha Torres isn't going to make this a fun, exciting fight. She's not going to go out there like a Yair Rodriguez and start tapping in leg kicks and throwing 360 head kicks. You know what she's going to do? Again, going to do the Ed Herman. I'm going to glue my forehead to your chest, and I'm just going to push you up against the cage. It might not be the best to watch, but it's going to get her the win. And really, that's all Tisha Torres cares about. I think Angela Hill might be able to piece her up a little bit at range. And the real key for Angela Hill, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, if she can cut Tisha Torres early, I do think it's going to help her as the fight goes on, especially because if she can hurt Torres with like an elbow in close when they are in one of those clinch exchanges, then maybe she will get Torres to maybe be a little bit more hesitant, maybe fight out on the outside a little bit more. So I hate that the X factor of this fight comes down to, well, if Hill can cut her early, then she might be able to win. But other than that one very specific situation, I do like Tisha Torres. I think she can make this fight ugly. I think she can make it boring, just rinse, repeat takedowns. Angela's one of those interesting characters because I don't think either one of us would say she's a bad grappler by any means. It's just she can get held down. And that's one of those things that Tisha Torres is really good at doing. She doesn't get a lot of finishes. She's not going to go for a lot of ground and pound, but she's very positionally aware.
Tisha Torres is one of those ones. Again, she keeps you down. You talk about positional awareness and upper body strength and understanding where to be. I mean, obviously she's jacked, but you watch those fighters like an Ed Herman. It's all about head position when we're in the clinch. Tisha Torres being shorter has her at an advantage in those situations. You love to see that. Is Angela Hill slouch in the clinch? No way. I mean, if she gets you into a plum clinch, it's lights out. I mean, she's one of the best Muay Thai artists in women's MMA, maybe even in MMA, because of just how fine her technique is. The question's over there. There's so many people talking about it. Yeah, it's a Crystal Palace jersey. And somebody else up there, I'm sorry if I missed your name, but somebody else out there said, how many likes do we need to get Craig to not call it soccer? Listen, our women won the gold medal the other day.
We can do whatever we want.
That's why I'm wearing the jersey. Now, yeah, it's the wrong country, but still.
Christine Sinclair and the ladies.
Sinclair and the gals picking up the gold. Big win over there. Canadian soccer right up there. Let's get into it. So, Matt, yeah, in this fight, we look at the votes. 60% have Torres, 40% have Hill. I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if Hill wins, but to me, I've got I've got Torres in the rematch, and so do you. We move into our next fight. 2 incredibly close fights coming up. You got Chiesa taking on Luque. You've got Aldo taking on Munoz. I've had a hard time all week. They feel like garbage picks to me because when they're that close, they're so tricky. Now, I said this in the original video. I said, listen, I bet you the odds end up at par for this fight. They're now at par for Chiesa and Luque. For Chiesa, he wins and wins and wins by decision. It's hard to beat Michael Chiesa by decision. For Vicente Luque, you can do it that way. Maybe you can knock him out. Maybe you can submit him. But all of them are really hard, and you're going to wear it in the face and in the legs when you take on Vicente Luque. So it depends to me how it ends up happening. I have a really hard time. So what are you thinking at the end of the day on this one?
This is an interesting fight because for Michael Chiesa, he can win a decision and win a dominant fight, but his opponent won't have a mark on their face. Whereas if you fight Vicente Luque, you might beat him, but like you're going to get hit clean and you're going to get hit clean consistently. That's a really weird thing about Luque. He throws looping hooks, but he has really high accuracy for this type of strikes that he throws. And he is a really tricky fighter because he will give up takedowns. And again, against a guy like Michael Chiesa, that's probably not a skill or that's not an attribute I want that fighter to have. But with Luque, he is really tricky with his own submission game, and I do feel like that's going to at least keep Michael Chiesa honest. I see this being one of the first positions of the fight. Luque might land a couple leg kicks, Chiesa goes into a takedown attempt, and Luque is going to at least attempt a submission. And I think the whole fight's going to be based on that one submission attempt. If Luque gets close with a Darce choke, and if Michael Chiesa feels some pressure, and if he is a little bit hesitant about going for takedown attempts, I feel confident telling you Vicente Luque will knock out Michael Chiesa if Michael Chiesa isn't shooting for takedowns, because Chiesa has weird stand-up. I don't think I've ever really given him the full credit he deserves for it because it is kind of basic. I always talk about Ally Quinta when it's like really good strikers, but nothing they do is that flashy. Michael Chiesa does have a certain stiffness to the way that he strikes, but nothing in his career has ever shown me that Michael Chiesa is a bad MMA striker. I just don't think he can get into an exchange with a guy like Vicente Luque. I think if Luque does start hitting him with those calf kicks early on, it's going to limit the movement of Michael Chiesa. And I know Luque and Anthony Pettis aren't all that similar, but look what happened to Michael Chiesa against Anthony Pettis. He's a flying knee and then gets choked out. I think if Luque can at least rock Michael Chiesa, he will be able to finish him shortly after. So I understand a lot of people's hesitancies. And honestly, as I'm this, I could see Michael Chiesa going out there and winning by rear naked choke. But again, I've thought Luque's been a special talent since early on when his record looked really salty and when no one believed in him. So I can't not pick him now that he's at the top of the division. I feel like he's going to be able to get the finish over Michael Chiesa. And it's like Vicente Luque's younger brother. Everybody at Sanford MMA was all excited about Kamaru Usman. He's the champion. That's great. And then it was, oh, well, Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is going to be the champion. Vicente Luque the whole time was training in the back being like, yeah, me too, guys. And no one really cared about him. Now I feel like he is going to start to get the respect he deserves after a win over a guy like Chiesa.
I'd be won over if Luque was training at Sanford MMA for this fight, working with the Burns, working with really good wrestlers in the States, but he's been at Serrato MMA.
He murdered Tyron Woodley.
And that's what scares me. And Tyron Woodley didn't wrestle with him. They struck.
No, Tyron Woodley shot for a takedown attempt. He shot for two of them.
But still, when I look at this one, Michael Chiesa, full camp, in Vegas, working one-on-one. I like Michael Chiesa in this fight. I'm switching the pick. I'm going with the guy that was the underdog at the start of the week. That's right? Chiesa was the underdog. I like Chiesa in this one. Again, if we have a look at the votes, 42% have Chiesa, 58% have Luque. So the fans going with Luque. The odds close to par. But to me, I have Chiesa to win this one by decision. Because for Luque, is he going to be able to knock him out? Boom, right off the bat?
Joe Lozon did. Joe Lozon beat him by TKO. I know it was a doctor's stoppage, but still. Michael Chiesa can get hit clean. Michael Chiesa's game comes down to if I get close enough to my opponent, they can't hit me because I've collapsed so much of the space. Again, you're going to have to eat one of those shots, though, and I do think a guy like Luque is going to be able to land one. I see where you're coming from, and again, it really does come down to the wrestling of Michael Chiesa. I always go back to the fight against Jorge Masvidal because, again, he drops Jorge Masvidal, makes zero sense whatsoever, and then Jorge Masvidal submits him. So this fight is one of those ones that could go either way. I think it will be a fun fight for as long as it lasts, but I do have to stick with the pick of Luque.
Matt, I'm going to go with the man himself. I'm going to go with Chiesa. You're going with Luque. MPTV is having a crazy, crazy time, and Tyler saying with Crystal Palace kit didn't see that one coming. Chiesa got choked out by Masvidal. I won 55 years ago. But still, I'm going to go with Chiesa in this one. You can't look at the past, only at the future. Jose Aldo taking on Pedro Munoz. What a crazy co-main event. A couple of guys that can absolutely swing for the fences. Jose Aldo with Pederneiras in his corner at Nova União. And you look at the way that this guy's fought recently. Reintroduce the kick. Working the takedowns against Marlon Vera and getting his back. Working with Marlon Vera all over the place in that fight. He looked amazing in that one. And then for Pedro Munoz, a guy that, listen, he knocked out Cody Garbrandt, the former champ, not that long after he was the champion. He's able to rack up these crazy wins. And when it doesn't work on the feet, which he's primarily kind of focused on his footwork and his striking in the last number of fights, he can absolutely get it done on the mat. maybe against like lower tier guys, not such top 15 guys. But that's where you're seeing the finishes from Pedro Munoz. That's where you're seeing the finishes. But when I look at this fight, it's such a tough one. JT, Misish saying this one's a really tough one to decide on. I agree with you. It is a tricky fight. So what are you thinking here?
You said Johnny Munoz was a jiu-jitsu credential. Like you grab it off the wall and there's him. Pedro Munoz is a way better MMA grappler than Johnny Munoz. What are we talking about? Pedro Munoz is weird because he's never been finished, and he's one of those guys I don't think will ever get submitted, but he's never even been dropped. That's the thing about his striking and his durability.
Let him know.
Well, yeah, Pedro Munoz has been hit clean throughout his whole career, and it's weird. He does have one of the best chins in MMA history, and it's interesting because in the last fight with Vicente Luque and in this fight, two of the more durable fighters in arguably UFC history. It's been a weird fight, and honestly, I'm going to put this one to the chat because I was fairly confident Aldo would be able to win this fight earlier on in the week. I like his speed advantage. I thought at least in the boxing combination, the fact that Pedro Munoz does like to curl up and box up, I thought we might see something similar to when Eddie Alvarez fought Justin Gaethje. Go back and look at that fight. Justin Gaethje might be the better fighter at that point in their careers, but Eddie Alvarez figured out, if I go to the body on a guy who does cover up, then I will start to be able to tire him out. And then that will start to open up headshots. I know Aldo has been able to go out there and finish guys at 135 pounds like he was at 145, but I still feel like the accumulation of damage is going to matter. This will be an interesting fight because I think it could be one of those where Jose Aldo looks great for 2.5 rounds and then immediately eats overhand right. And then we're a bunch of idiots. So but at the end of the day, I like the speed advantage of Jose Aldo. He's never been taken down cleanly in his whole career. Like Chad Mendes, the peak of his powers. Had
BKFC zone.
BKFC zone. That'll be an interesting foray. But yeah, I still do like Jose Aldo in this one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was thrown over there in the chat by MPTV that I don't know what Tapatio is. There's the Tapatio. And
It's
listen,
high quality.
If we go back to the last fight, I will do a spoonful of Tapatio if Vicente Luque is able to get the win.
I don't know why you do these when nobody asked them to.
And we'll get moving, Matt. Again, for me, I'm going to be going with the man himself. Ooh, boy. I'm going to be going with Jose Aldo. I'm switching the pick in there, too. I've had this one really close all week. But again, I like the speed advantage of Aldo in the first. I like it in the second. And if he's able to win the first 2 rounds, I think that's the big kicker here. Can Munoz get the finish in the third? We'll have to see how that one plays out. But for me, I had to kind of switch the way that I was thinking. I had this one, again, right there on the fence at the start of the week, and I had a hard time. It was almost like, I guess I'll go with Munoz, but I've got Jose Aldo in this one. Again, I think it's a great fight.
The thing that I really am interested in, though, is we always hear about the grappling of Jose Aldo, but, he's this great black belt on the mat. And he is, don't get me wrong, and he showed that in the Marlon Vera fight. I wonder if he's better at grappling than Pedro Munoz, though, because Pedro Munoz is that guy nobody tries to take down because he's got one of the best guillotines in the UFC. And you watch him, like, he goes for ankle locks. He goes for weird stuff. He's not the type of guy you really want to mess around with on the mat. So it'll be interesting. If Pedro Munoz does start to wear on Jose Aldo, and if this fight does end up on the mat, I'll be very curious to see who ends up on top.
All right, Matt, my mouth is on fire, and I'm on fire for this main event. Now the graphic match is up, so we're having fun. Toss the boys a like and a sub, and when we move forward with the fight companion, which is coming up later on tonight, it's going to start 20 minutes before the main card, so you get an opportunity to jump on and hang out. We're not comedians. We're not doing this for fun. We will read the comments, though, the comments. But when I look at this one, Cyril Gane taking on Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, the hometown guy, H-Town's own, has a mural that he shares with Cyril Gane. They'll probably outpaint that some other day. But, Matt, when I look at this one, it's a tricky fight because Derek Lewis has that fight-ending type of power. Cyril Gane has every single facet of MMA that you love to see. I think it was ASMR Critic that was a little bit critical. It might not have been, but it was over there in the chat this week, and it was actually out there today. The fact that the win that Cyril Gane had over Don'Tale Mayes shouldn't be discredited due to the fact that the grappling, Don'Tale Mayes actually has a judo background to go with his boxing that he's kind of added in MMA. But for me, again, like I said, with Cyril Gane, I love every single part of his game. And for those reasons and the fact that I've been riding this guy's train since he was a TKO in Quebec, I get Cyril Gane here.
Cyril Gane's going to win this fight based on speed based on footwork and based on cardio, not based off his grappling. Again, that's the thing. I don't think Ciryl Gane's going to grapple top 10 guys. I don't think that's his nature. I don't think that's what his backup plan is. I think he can get away with doing that against the guys like Don'Tale Mayes, because Don'Tale Mayes is not even a top 20 heavyweight in the UFC. Ciryl Gane can look really good against those lower level guys because he's such a high level athlete. It's really interesting. I bring this up when we talk about Alexander Rakic a lot, but I don't feel like I've ever really given Ciryl Gane his due. Ciryl Gane's a phenomenal athlete, and that's not something we have a lot in MMA. If you're a really good athlete growing up, you either do basketball, you do football, you do something that's going to make you hundreds of millions of dollars when you grow up. You normally don't get into MMA. Ciryl Gane has the athleticism of a lot of those guys who do play other sports. Like, even look at him playing basketball during fight week. Ciryl Gane, big hoops
look
guy.
at him golfing with his brother.
Exactly. Like, he's just one of those guys who's a great athlete. And at the end of the day, if you have a great athlete who also is willing and open to learn, who does have good cardio, who does have the mindset that you look for in a championship caliber fighter, I think it's going to be really hard to beat that guy. Again, when Ciryl Gane fights Francis Ngannou, that's going to be another conversation. That's going to be a much different fight than this one against Derek Lewis. And we'll talk about that if and when it happens. But against Derek Lewis, this is the really big thing for Ciryl Gane. He can't get comfortable in this fight ever. I don't care if he's up 4-10-8 rounds. I do not care. We've seen this too many times. Too many times Derek Lewis has been getting outclassed, been getting beat up,
Volkov, he did it against Marcin Tybura.
Shamil Abdurakhimov. It's just been a consistent theme throughout his career. And he's great at it. And this is the weird thing, too. I've seen some people saying, Gane prop on sub. Alexei Oleinik had Derek Lewis in his best submission. He had him locked in it, and he couldn't even submit Derek Lewis. So I understand the odds out there. I think they're in like the plus 650 range. I just don't really see Ciryl Gane going out there submitting Derek Lewis when I've seen Derek Lewis in bad positions with guys who I believe are better grapplers than Gane.
Baza Raphael hitting us up in the super chat. Much appreciated. If I can go back through the chat a little bit, there were a lot of really great points. David Cahill saying, can't like if your picks are 20% right. David Cahill, look down below in the description.
He was right last weekend, though, to be fair.
Yeah, look at it there. And the other couple of comments that I wanted to go back up to, I saw we had the host of the Link podcast, and it's up there somewhere. Make sure you check him out over on iTunes. I was on the show, but much appreciated, and a great podcast. You can learn a lot of great things. His uncle, a great record producer. Really interesting stuff. Make sure you check out Mike's podcast. And the other shout out that I wanted to give as well is to Matt Perino, original friend of the show, who brought us on the Marcus Deegan show. This guy's having the glow up. I mean, he's going to be announcing for, Gamebred FC.
Number 4 ranked, Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. That was great.
Congrats to Matt. I see his Instagram's absolutely popping off, so you love to see that. But yeah, in this fight, for me, I've got Ciryl Gane. I've talked about it over and over. But the craziest thing is, I don't know what the poll was at before it left, but right now, 53% of the fans at Fight Night Picks have Gane to 47% that have Lewis, but the odds, Gane's over 3-1 favorite.
Which is wild. Like, I understand Derek Lewis, the much more popular fighter out of these two. And this is what I mean. We were kind of talking about this before we even got on air. I'm sure probably want to wrap this up soon, but still, Ciryl Gane was at such a disadvantage in that press conference. And I still feel like he did a really good job of staying composed. And I know people try to put a lot of stock into press conferences and stuff. Just him staying calm really is an important factor. And again, that's going to be the key in this fight. If he stays calm and smart, it's going to win it. And I know calm and smart are two things that we normally associate with MMA fighters, but Ciryl Gane is both of those things. He has a very uncommon skill set for the heavyweight division. I feel like that's fair to say. And again, I think he'll be around for a very long time to come.
Matt, when we look at this overall card, let's recap the picks. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to the second iteration of the show.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go back through the chat, and I don't remember what the handle was, but if you can hit me up, find me on Twitter and Instagram. Let me know your OBS tricks of the trade, because, yeah, it's crashing and burning. It's not going well. But if we're going back through this one, 88% of the fans at Fight Night Picks have Johnny Munoz to get the win over Jamie Simmons. I've got Munoz in this one.
I also have Munoz.
Our next fight, Leonardo taking on Gatto. 74% of the fans have Gatto to win. I've got Leonardo. You've got Gatto.
Don't waste your money putting that on a parlay, though.
No, it's a really silly one. Our next fight, John's taking on Dos Santos. 84% of the fans have John's. We had him a couple weeks ago. We both still have him here.
I do like Miles Johns this one. Again, Anderson Dos Santos has a great record to look at, but once you really do the deep dive, he hasn't really faced the level of competition that you'd like to see from a guy who has almost 30 MMA fights, so I do like Johns.
All right, Matt. Our next fight, Manel Kopp taking on Ode Osborne. I switched the pick. I'm going with Odie Osborne now.
Did you ever think in your lifetime you would say those words? And I'm not saying that to discredit
The
Odie
Fight Night
Osborne.
Picks curse, it's done. It's done. Everybody that comes on, does an interview, they lose. I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret. I've got a couple of them banked. One of them, she's going to be headlining a PFL card. Headlining. And it's not somebody that we've talked to before.
Ooh, exciting.
Who are you going with? Cobb or Osborne?
I do still have Cobb. I don't love the weight miss, but again, I believe this guy had a top 5 future at one point. If I still feel like he's got a top 10 future, he should be able to win this fight. I don't love the weight miss. And again,